Yes. Any ideas? Anyone know any moons? Shout it out.
Well,
The moon. Good one, sir. It might be that. The moon does look like that. Anyone else? Io. Ganymede. Ganymede. Well done. Fantastic. Let's see. It's still going. Europa. Okay, we're doing another one. Potato. Yeah. Anyone know any moons? Ceres. I don't know that one, but I'm not a moon expert. Ganymede again. Good. Yeah. Just. Enceladus. This is better than the show. It's the moon again, but on a bad day.
Prometheus.
Oh, so close. Will we stop it? No. Oh, thank you. Normally I can stop it, but we've had some IT issues. I'm terribly bad with computers, I must say. Whoever invented the first computer must be Turing in their grave.
Oh, boo!
Right, we need a warm-up. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the PBH Fringe. More specifically, welcome to Andy's Moon Show, How to Fake the Moon Landing. Fantastic. Give us a shout if you've seen Andy's Moon Show before.
No.
Thank you. Just making a point. No, I haven't. But there have been some. Fantastic. That was a nice medium cheer. Give us a cheer if you've not seen Andy's Moon Show before. Much bigger cheer, much happier people. Might be correlated. My name is Rick. I'm not Andy. I wish I was, but I'm not. I am the co-host. I co-host the Lunartic podcast with Andy. Andy's not here. You can't see him. He's normally at the back. But he will not appear until we do a bit of a warm-up, and we just got to set the scene for this one. So this is How to Fake the Moon Landing. Give us a cheer if you've heard of a website called YouTube. Give us a cheer if you've watched a video on YouTube. Give us a cheer if you watched a conspiracy theory on YouTube. Fantastic, basically everyone. Yes, so we've all seen the conspiracy theories of one type or another. So the moon landing is fake. We all know it to be true. We've all seen, don't we? Play along, it'll be a good show. The moon landing is fake. We all know it to be true, don't we? Fantastic. I'll just move that chair. You don't need that in the way, unless you want it, just randomly. It was supporting the laptop, but that's moved over. Sorry. We all think the moon landing is fake. Fantastic. So let's stick with that for now. However, there is a man here who is going to teach us the error of our ways. He's a moon expert. Please give him a nice warm welcome, Mr. Andy Roberts.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for coming to Andy's Moon Show. I am Andy, the self-appointed moon expert, and with me tonight is Rick.
I am the audience representative. Thank you.
Yes.
I'll be representing the audience and all our conspiracy theories. Also, it's an interactive show. We don't pick on people. We're not one of those type of shows. So if you've got any questions, do shout them out. Also, can I have a cheer from anyone who is from Europe? Not Britain. Woo! Where are you from? Malta, fantastic. This is a PBH Fringe show. There's a bucket collection at the end. Someone yesterday put a euro in. We have no use for it, so it's all yours. Thank you. They say don't sit on the front row, but here, why not? You get your rewarded. Yeah. Anyone here from South America? Yeah. Fantastic. Are you from Argentina, Bettina? No. You're not? Oh, no. Well, I've got an Argentina peso, so there you go. You're the nearest country to sell it, so there we go. Okay. That's why they put it in the bucket for us.
Well, we could give you £1, but that's also worth nothing at the moment, so... Anyway, back to the show and Andy's Moon Show, not Andy's currency show. Now, I said before I'm a self-appointed moon expert, and you're probably thinking, what makes this guy a moon expert? So I'm going to give you my credentials and why I have the nerve to call myself a moon expert. So first things first, my academic credentials. I went to university to study physics. I got a master's in physics after 4 years in Manchester, and then I left university and got a soul-crushing desk job, which had nothing to do with physics whatsoever. So I thought, you know what, I need a creative outlet. So I started making YouTube videos about moons of the solar system, which actually then led me to name not one, but 2 moons of Jupiter. So this... Ooh, thank you.
It's more impressive than that. There you go.
Welcome to Andy's Moon Panto show. But yes, this is one of the moons of Jupiter, Euphemy. The other one I named is called Philophrosiny. And I got to name these 2 moons because I created a video called How to Name the Moons of Jupiter. Long story short, out of the 5 up for grabs to name, I named 2 of them. The other 3 were named by children, or astronomy clubs full of children. So I did enter a competition for children, and I still won though, so it doesn't matter. And I got to name 100% official 2 moons of Jupiter. So the final credential I want to talk to you about tonight, and if you've read the flyers, you already know this, I am BBC Radio 1's Sean Moondes, their resident space expert. So the breakfast show with Greg James, whenever they need someone to come on and talk about space, and Brian Cox isn't available, they will... They will give me a call and I will happily drop whatever soul-crushing meeting I am in to go on the radio and talk about how astronauts poo in space. So those are my credentials and why I'm here tonight to talk to you about how to fake the moon landing. Now, I very much believe that humanity has gone to the moon. I think the 1969 moon landings happened and every moon landing since then, up until 1993. I believe that Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong and Michael Collins went to the moon, landed, spent 2.5 hours on the surface, collected some rock samples, came back to Earth and celebrated this incredible achievement. Whereas Rick here...
No, we didn't go to the moon. Louis Armstrong, Buzz Lightyear and Phil Collins did not go to the moon. It was all fake. And we've seen YouTube and there's a video on it, so that proves it. End of show!
Okay, so... Usually there is a laptop here which tells me what the next slide is.
I want to ask for what's my general objections?
Well, yes, let's go through that. What are your objections about why do you think the moon landing was
Well,
fake?
I suppose you're completely unprepared for that. But non-parallel shadows, Andy, if you look at them there, look, if that was from the sun, these would be parallel. Those
They
are
are
going
parallel.
off. Those are good. No, that's going off horozontally, and that one's going off slightly at an angle.
lovely screen going
We are,
away.
yeah, we're not allowed to touch the screen. I keep forgetting. It could have been done on a model. It's incredibly difficult to go to space, isn't it? You know, have you tried? I haven't, because it's just so difficult.
That is a good point. It is difficult to go to space, and the moon landings were an incredible achievement when you consider that 12 years earlier, humanity had just got to space for the first time in the form of Sputnik. Give me a quick cheer if you've heard of Sputnik. Yay! Excellent! A nice, intelligent crowd that's space enthusiasts. So we all know Sputnik, the first satellite in space, which was put there by the Soviet Union in 1957. This little ball emitted beeps thanks to these antennas, and as it went around the world, it emitted those beeps, and not only did it beat them down across the Soviet Union, it did it across America as well, and this actually terrified Americans, leading to something called the Sputnik crisis. Americans who had a ham radio or some decent radio equipment, which was really popular at the time, so most Americans, they could listen to Sputnik coming in range, the beeps overhead, and then going out of range. And not only that, they could see it. They could see a star in the sky as Sputnik went overhead. It absolutely terrified Americans and led to an amazing piece of propaganda. That is what Sputnik is.
But it was fake. According to various sources on YouTube, it's fake. You could have done that. I could do that with a ping pong ball and a few radio aerials. Paint it silver. The beeping. Yes. You're going to ask. The beeping yes. You could do with a broadcasting tower. We can in the 60s we had radio, so we could instead of a radio station just broadcast beep.
But it would have to come in range and then out of range as Sputnik flew overhead.
Put it on the back of a truck and drive the truck.
Okay, but Sputnik went round the Earth once every 90 minutes.
Yeah. Do that with a truck.
Okay, this is the hypothetical truck route. So you need to leave the coast of Australia here, and within 10 minutes just be coming up to Alaska, and then driving across the uninhabited Yukon through various terrains, across the Great Lakes, and then through the Atlantic across to Africa within half an hour.
Yeah, you probably can't.
Yes.
We'll say you can get to space. I mean, I'm trying to represent a lot of conspiracy theories, so there are some that say you can't get to space, but we'll broadly accept you can get to space.
Yeah.
We've seen World War II documentaries, we've seen the Nazis shooting V2 rockets.
Yeah.
Chuck more fuel on that, you can probably get into a thing into orbit.
Yes, that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, it doesn't mean they landed on the moon, but we agree you can get to just around low Earth orbit.
Yes, low Earth orbit. So my point with this is that while you not probably, you might be able to fake the Sputnik launch and the beeps, it's significantly easier to actually do it for real than it is to fake it. And that's why I'm here tonight to talk to you about how to fake the moon landing and how it's damn near impossible. So, Rick, you're the voice of the conspiracy theorists. How did we fake the moon landing?
Easy, right, everyone. You learn to use a clicker to go forward in the slide. That's the first thing you do. Right, Rick's theory, quite simple. We all agree. We launch a rocket. That's the first thing you do. The next thing is, so that's launching our sort of Sputnik type thing, but it's got astronauts on it because we need the astronauts on it so that they can come down and be heroes. So they're just going to hide into low Earth orbit. They don't need to go anywhere near the moon. While they're up there, they can just press play on a video player. They didn't have videos in the 1980s, but we had reel-to-reel tape recorders, so they could have recorded it on that and just played it back. And the footage was created on Earth, somewhere, desert, looks moon-like, doesn't it? And then you just land and keep quiet. There you go.
Okay.
4 simple steps.
Okay. There's a lot of glossing over of how difficult each one of these aspects are, so we'll kind of break it down into the launch and the broadcast, the actual faking of the footage, and then the cover-up aspect of it. So first things first, let's look at the launch and the broadcast. Thankfully, we both agree that launching a rocket, that actually happened. It's how we got Sputnik into space, which went around the Earth once every 90 minutes. And that was in low Earth orbit. So when you're in low Earth orbit, you can use the gravity of the Earth to keep you up there with minimal fuel, and you orbit once every 90 minutes. Now, Rick, the audience representative, what is different about Sputnik going around once every 90 minutes? The moon doesn't go around the Earth once every 90 minutes, does it?
No.
No, it doesn't. Because of the rotation of the Earth, and very much like how the sun appears and goes across, you have moonrise and moonfall. So it takes about 23.5 hours for the moon to complete one rotation around the Earth as it appears to us as we rotate on our axis. So if your rocket, which has the footage on it, the fake footage that you're going to hit play and broadcast down, if you're beaming down from the moon, but you're here, and the moon is here, do you not think there's a bit of a discrepancy if you're beaming down footage of live moon footage when you're not in the position of the moon in the sky?
Yes, but that's just because you've animated it like Speedy. If you just slow this thing down,
Yes.
just slow it down, and then it's in line with the moon, everyone here with a satellite dish will see it coming from the moon.
Okay. Yes, this isn't to scale, by the way, because they would be tiny dots on a scale if
Big
they were.
satellite dish.
And yes, if you were here, you'd be downlinking here to telemetry signals, which are not where the moon should be. So you just want to slow this down so you're in the same position as the moon. What you would need to do is just slam on the brakes. So you're slamming on the brakes, you're in the same position as the moon. Now, that's incredibly hard to do. With Sputnik, you are using the Earth's gravitational pull to keep you up there. So this string would be like the Earth's gravitational pull, keeping Sputnik at a relatively constant speed. The same with the satellite in low Earth orbit. Now, if I want to slow this down, it immediately falls out of the sky. Now, you need to put some fuel into that, and also if you want to slow it down. So when I slow it down, I need more fuel to keep it up. You would need an incredible amount of fuel to slow down your satellite so it is in the same position as the sky as the moon is.
Just add more fuel.
I don't think you realise how much fuel you would need. You'd need to slow down a rocket in low Earth orbit so it's at the same position in the sky as the moon is. You would need 50,000 kilograms of fuel per second.
Okay. How many seconds do we need?
Well, you're skipping a slide, but This rocket can only hold 2 seconds worth, and you need to be going for 10 days.
Can you keep sending rockets up to refuel it? One every 2 seconds.
Well, you could, but were there rockets going up from Cape Canaveral once every 2 seconds?
Not according to any conspiracy theorists I researched. So yeah, we will concede that one, won't we? We'll be nice. They weren't refueling rockets.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but the only reason it's going, needing all that fuel is because it's near the Earth.
Yes.
So go from low Earth orbit to, if you go further away, you need less fuel.
Yeah.
So middle Earth orbit. sounds like a bit J.K. Tolkien, but J.R. Tolkien.
J.R.
J.R.
Harry Potter and the Fellowship of the Rings. Yes. Battling all those orcs in Middle Earth orbit, floating around with little helmets on. Okay.
What's that, Sauron? You're under the sorting hat. Slytherin! What a surprise. So, right, Middle Earth orbit.
Yes. The problem with Middle Earth orbit, not a real term, is that you have to go something called through the Van Allen belts.
Hey. The conspiracy theorist friend. Every time the Van Allen belts, you can't get through them, they're full of radiation, they will kill any astronaut. Boom.
Would you like to explain the Van Allen belts anymore?
Yeah, they're there. Look. Look at this. Red, bad, boom, instant death, any astronaut going to the moon.
Okay, well, time me for like 60 seconds, a crash course on the Van Allen belts. So, you know in primary school when you have a magnet and you put it on some paper and you throw some iron filings on it, you can see the magnetic field? It's very much like that around the Earth. The Earth has a magnetic field, so instead of iron filings, it's trapping particles with a charge. And those charged particles are often radioactive. They come from solar winds or cosmic rays. Those charged particles can kill you if you are exposed to them enough, very much like any radiation. Radiation is charged particles. So the longer you spend in the Van Allen belts, the more likely you are to get a lethal dose. However, the astronauts, when they were going from the Earth to the moon, they went through the Van Allen belt.
30 seconds.
They went through the Van Allen belt as quickly as they could. Very much like running across hot coals. If you saunter and walk over them, you're going to get burned. So if you run over them very quickly, you'll get a little bit burnt, but not totally burnt. And also, we didn't send the astronauts up naked. We put them in a spacesuit and in a massive rocket which had nice radiation protection to protect them from the Van Allen belts. Hey, that is the Van Allen belts in 60 seconds. Thank you. A very polite audience. Thank you.
So you can die in the Van Allen belts, or you can't.
Well, you can. So let's just talk about radiation doses quickly. This is all in millisieverts. Background radiation is 2.4 millisieverts. Everyone gets that. You get double that if you live in Cornwall. Oh no. Because of radon. No, that's true. Because of radon in the ground.
Okay. It's not like an EU subsidy or something.
No, have more of background radiation. Eating a banana will give you a tiny, tiny dose, but only a little bit, not enough to kill you. The important Chernobyl-esque stuff, 1,000 millisieverts will give you radiation poisoning. It could give you cancer, probably. And 7,000 to 10,000 millisieverts in one go will give you a fatal dose. Now, here are the Van Allen belts with a quick dose map added onto them. The red, here, if you're 4 hours in that bit, you'll get a fatal dose and you'll die. So, we want to make sure our astronauts are not hanging out there for too long, which is why they went shumph straight through it in less than 3 hours.
No, let's go there. Middle Earth. There's low Earth orbit. Let's go to Middle Earth orbit there.
Okay, let's cross the Shire and end up in semi-Mordor, the Mordor suburbs. That is a good point, because this is the inner Van Allen belt and this is the outer Van Allen belt. But the problem is, if you're here, your orbit is still 5 to 10 hours. You're still going too fast, and you still need to be there for 10 days, so you still need to pump in a lot of fuel to keep you in the same position as the moon. Basically, it can't be done because you need more fuel to keep you at the same position in the sky as the moon.
Okay, so we've gone from 90 seconds to something. We'll go further out.
Yeah.
However far out we need to be to match the moon.
So
geostationary orbit goes about once every 24 hours.
Yes.
And the moon goes about once every 24 hours. So we'll go to, is it there?
Yeah.
Right.
Give me a quick cheer if you know what geostationary orbit is. Okay, some of you.
That was the lamest cheer I've heard in Edinburgh. Pretend you're proud that you know what geostationary orbit is. Give us a cheer if you know what geostationary orbit is. Woo! Yes.
Wow, you're so enthusiastic about orbits.
Cool kids.
So geostationary orbit is where we put all our navigation satellites, because if you put a satellite there, it will always be in the same position in the sky as the Earth's rotation. It's a reliable position to keep a satellite at. Now, in order to get to geostationary orbit, which is out of the Van Allen belts, so it's nice and safe, we need to do something called a slingshot orbit, where we go from one low orbit to another with minimal fuel, because these satellites are small, they can only have a little bit of fuel on them. But to get from one orbit, this low Earth orbit, to a higher orbit, geostationary orbit, you inject a tiny little bit of fuel here, so you have a bit of thrust, and you spiral your way out from low Earth orbit to geostationary orbit. That's a nice, simple solution. But the problem is, it takes a long time to get there, at least 5 to 10 hours, during which you will have to go through the deadly bits in the Van Allen belts, so therefore our astronauts will be exposed to deadly amounts of Van Allen radiation. This is not a good solution.
No, but that's because you're meandering. This is like my family trying to get across the Royal Mile. Just saying. What you want to do is just go straight across.
Okay, as in...
rather than meander around.
So like you live here, you just like... Shades on, just going straight quick, ignoring the flyers, just I've got my headphones on, no eye contact, straight through.
Replace flyers with radiation.
Yeah.
You get about 10,000 flyers. Get 10,000 flyers, you die.
Okay, you could, in theory, do that, but to go from as the crow flies straight orbit from low Earth to here, you would need to then dump a hell of a lot of fuel to slow down, because you need to slow down against space. Space is empty. There is nothing to thrust against and slow down. That is not useful. And you would need, I calculated this, it was about 1 million kilograms worth of fuel you would need to pump into your brakes to slow down and stop a geostationary orbit, because there's nothing for you to stop against. So it's an impossible braking maneuver.
You say there's nothing. So if you go out and you say there's nothing to stop against, then how come they landed on the moon? Because they must have stopped at some point to land on the moon.
This is true. The moon is not made of nothing. It's made of rock. And it has a gravitational pull, and you can enter the moon's orbit and slow yourself down, and you can thrust against that to slow yourself down.
Okay. Can we use the moon then?
Yes! This is what I've been trying to tell you.
No, we're going to use the moon to stop ourselves. So we're going to go straight out.
Yeah.
Use the moon to stop ourselves. So we can't do this braking manoeuvre and stuff. We go straight out, use the moon to stop.
Yeah.
But not land.
Okay, so to summarise why we're going to the moon, even though we both agree that we do go to the moon.
We're orbiting the moon, but not landing.
Okay.
Is that legal, by the way? Can we do that in our... We can fake the moon landing.
Yeah.
And we can orbit the moon and not...
Sure. If you were going to fake the moon landing, you need to convince everyone that you are at the moon. So let's just assume we are going to the moon to push play on a VCR and broadcast the footage rather than just actually go to the moon. We'll come to that in a minute. So why can't we go in low Earth orbit? Well, we're moving too fast, burning impossible amounts of fuel. Move higher out, we will kill our astronauts thanks to the Van Allen belts. Go to the safe bits of the Van Allen belts, but we're still moving too fast and burning too much fuel. We could then move to geostationary orbit, kill our astronauts getting there, or perform an impossible braking maneuver, all to just get to the moon and broadcast from there.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll do that.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
But while we're orbiting the moon, we may as well land on the moon and film there, because that's significantly easier than faking the footage.
No, landing is tricky. Have you landed a plane?
Personally, no.
Exactly. It's tricky to land stuff.
It is tricky to land stuff.
Qualified. If you want to land a plane, you have to get qualified. How would you get moon qualified? Don't know. It's easier. Exactly. There's no pilot training academies on the moon, are there? No. So, it's easier to press play on a video than it is to land on the moon.
I
agree.
No, I disagree.
You think it's harder to press play?
Okay, let's just talk about how to fake the footage, because faking the footage would be so incredibly hard based on the photos and the footage we have seen from the moon landings. Recreating that on a set on Earth would be impossible. So why do you think that this footage has been faked?
It's not so much you prove it's fake, it's just you could do it with a model. It's the first answer. You just do it in the studio, build a model of the moon, jump around a bit, dress as astronauts,
Okay.
Plant a flag. Yeah, just do it as though you would do a Hollywood movie, because they had, what was the film that came out at the time?
Space Odyssey.
Space Odyssey.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, Space Odyssey was out, so when they're off for dinner or whatever, weekend off, can we borrow your set? Yeah, cracking.
Okay, so I'm going to show you some real moon landing footage now. This was taken by the command module, filmed by Michael Collins, and what you're going to see here is a moon lander, the one with Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong, appear from nowhere. Now, if this was a model, this is the lander, that would have to have been there the whole time. And as it gets closer and closer to the camera, you'll see how detailed it is. So that means this model's fairly big. So in order for it to appear on screen, it will have had to be very, very far away. So it's coming towards you on a string. So big model, far away, which means this backdrop of craters, imagine it's like a conveyor belt with a nice model on it, that would have to be huge, at least hundreds of meters long, all going with a completely unique surface. It's not like a treadmill where it's the same surface over again. This is all completely unique. Now, another thing I want to talk to you about is how it is lit, because if you're filming, you need to light something. Now, this is something called an even wash. All of the light is, like the whole surface is evenly lit. There are no hot spots here. Now, if you look to this side of the room, the column in the middle is lit brighter than the column at the back and the column here. And that is because there is a studio light shining this way and it is illuminating it. So this is not an evenly lit room. So we have something called hotspots, and that column has a light hotspot. Here, there is no hotspot whatsoever. It is all evenly lit. To do this, you need a really, really bright light, very, very far away, and you just need the one light to create an even wash. In other words, you need the sun to light this footage so you can film it.
We could do that nowadays with CGI,
Okay.
computer-generated imagery. So that NASA could have done it. They'd have kept the technology secret.
Yeah.
Slowly released it to Pixar over some time.
Okay, so
CGI technology, they could have used it.
Okay, so here is some CGI technology. This is the latest CGI technology from 1981. This is the best they had.
Is that not, like, to me, that's just a genuine man in a top hat on a chessboard in space? I just can't see it. No, it's crap, isn't it?
It is quite crap. Here is another one as well.
What is that?
It's a man playing a piano. I think it's meant to look like Sylvester Stallone, but again, this was the height of CGI at the time.
What's wrong with his chin?
I don't know. The reason why I included this one, though, is because you can see like shadows on him, which means that you can simulate sunlight and different levels of light in CGI, but you can't do people convincingly. And even if you did try... Oh, yes, I did put a big fake there.
Thank you for that.
Just in case people got confused. But the point is, the CGI technology just wasn't available at the time to fake this moon landing footage.
Or it was, and they kept it quiet. Can you prove they didn't?
I can't prove disprove a negative. I can't prove that they've kept this quiet forever. So here we have our secret technology bucket. So I can't prove that NASA has kept this a secret forever. So we'll put that idea in here. Okay?
Cool.
Excellent. Now, I talked about sunlight, and also here is another compelling argument that you forgot to mention before.
I've definitely said non-parallel shadows before, but non-parallel shadows.
Thank you for clearing that up, Rick. So, as I said before, single source of light illuminating our set. If it was the sun, all the shadows would be parallel. These are not parallel, and it's very compelling. Like, this might be a studio light here illuminating the set, because if it was a single source of light, everything would be parallel, but here, the shadows are clearly not parallel. What you're seeing here is actual moon landing footage, but it's an optical illusion. These shadows are in fact parallel, but they're on an uneven surface. So I found this YouTube video which perfectly demonstrates what I'm talking about. Here you can see non-parallel shadows, but it's on an uneven surface. The candle at the top on a slightly uneven surface. But the shadows are in fact parallel, but because you're on the same level as the shadows, they just appear to be non-parallel. So that is why we have this non-parallel shadows argument that, oh, it was filmed in a studio because of the non-parallel shadows. This is why. And the surface of the moon, covered in craters, covered in hills. It is not a flat car park. It is a very hilly surface. So that is why we have non-parallel shadows in some of the moon landing photos.
Is that video on YouTube?
Yes, that's why I credited the guy here.
We'll accept it.
Okay, brilliant.
It's on YouTube.
Excellent. So that is why we have non-parallel shadows. Now, from these shadows, while they appear non-parallel here you can see they are nice and parallel. They're also nice and crisp shadows as well. And to get crisp shadows, you need a lot of photons landing on the thing that's blocking the thing to create the shadows. So you need something like the sun, which kicks out a lot of photons and a lot of light to create these crisp shadows. And also look how evenly lit this surface is, which means it had to have been lit by a single source of light very, very far away, creating parallel shadows, i.e. the sun.
Can you not do it in a studio? Bright lights, far away, 100 meters or something, and
Okay,
yeah.
So I mentioned CGI before, how you can simulate sunlight in it. Here is some footage from a CGI YouTube channel where there's special effects and they talk about all the different kinds of ways to light a surface. So here is sunlight, evenly lit surface, parallel shadows, nice crisp shadows. If we did this in studio lights, you'd have to have your studio lights fairly close up in order to create crisp shadows. But doing so, it makes the shadows not parallel, and also the surface is not evenly lit. At the back, it is darker. Here, it is lit a lot lighter because the studio lights are up close.
Move them away.
Okay, let's move the studio lights further away. We have a nice evenly lit surface. We have nice parallel shadows, but as you can see, they are not very crisp at all. They're blurry because there's not a lot of photons falling on them to create these crisp, clear shadows.
Bit confused.
Okay, here is a Venn diagram. Studio lights up close, brilliant, we get crisp shadows, but the surface isn't evenly lit, and we have non-parallel shadows. Studio lights are far away, evenly lit surface, parallel shadows, but the studio lights are not...
That one. Put
You
the
mean-
studio lights there.
You mean the sun?
Yes.
The sun will do this for us.
Okay, well, yeah, can't we simulate the sun?
We can simulate the sun. You do this every show.
Do I? Yes, I probably do.
This is the
There
problem.
you go.
This
Sorry,
is the
yeah.
problem with studio lights. Okay, this footage is from Diamonds Are Forever, where James Bond breaks into them filming the moon landing set. But it perfectly demonstrates why this is actually fake. Okay, well,
It does
what?
look fake. I'll
Yes,
be
it is
honest.
fake, and also it highlights the problem with studio lights.
Tape recorder, that fella there's fake. He wouldn't survive in space.
No, he wouldn't. But this is just to
Why would you wear a
demonstrate.
tie in space? That's just a stupid idea.
No, but that
Ludolander.
that shadow at the back,
It's not realistic.
nice, crisp and clear.
That's
No
not-
one's
that's
listening.
Not an,
you're all watching
not
James
an air
Bond.
seal.
Yeah.
Security guards in space, are they clangers?
No, it's Officer Krupke on his day off, here to arrest James Bond on the moon, apparently.
So there you go. That is how you would fake moon landing. Ignore these people, but you would build one of them.
Okay.
He's going out. I don't know why. Don't need to go outside. Just
The point I'm trying to make with this is, here is a studio light of the moon landing set, filled with studio lights. Bright at the front, dark at the back. There are lots of hot spots here. And also, the shadows are not crisp, they're not parallel because of these studio lights. This is why it's hard to fake the studio lights, the sunlight in a studio. That's what I was trying to say. I got it out in the end.
yeah. Thank you. Now, yes, that is correct. But that's on the budget of Diamonds Are Forever. Mm-hmm. Ironically, not Moonraker.
No, which is equally bad. They don't go to the moon.
But can you simulate the sun though? Because they were on that budget. If you're on NASA budget,
Okay.
then have better studio lights.
Let's simulate the sunlight in a studio, and I'll show you how hard it's to do. It's going to be some science terms. You can time me for a minute as well. So, the sun kicks out a lot of light, and there's a measurement for that, lumens and lux. This torch has 2,000 lumens, and what I can do with this torch is I can configure the lux. So there is more photons landing in a certain amount of square, more lumens in that square, so it is brighter, so that has a bigger lux. I can then widen this, and then I have less lux because it is going across a bigger area. Lux is lumens per meter squared. As you can see from here, same number of lumens, but it is a lower lux because it's across a bigger area. Now, light falls via the 1/r squared rule. So
30 seconds.
after a meter, light diminishes by nothing. After 2, it diminishes by a quarter, so you get 25% of the light. After 3 meters, that's down by 9, so it's about 11%. Now the sun kicks out 36 octomillion lumens in all directions. Following the 1/r squared rule, over 150 million kilometers, it gives us a lux of 100,000. So that's what we need to recreate in our studio lights. Done.
Fantastic. Well done.
Thank you. So that's how much lux we need
that looks achievable.
Okay.
How many lux was that?
That was 2,000 lumens.
That's not bad. So if you had 50 of them, we're not a million miles off. So I reckon we can achieve that.
Okay. Well, let's look at one of the brightest sources of man-made light on Earth, and that's this, the Luxor Skybeam. If you think of a comedy set in Las Vegas and they show the actual skyline and you've got the Luxor Pyramid, they have a big beam coming out of it, and that's the big beam, the Luxor Skybeam. It is 13.5 million lumens.
That's more than we need.
Yeah, and over the top of the pyramid, which is a metre squared, it gives us 13.5 million lux.
That's great. Just put it back a bit and 10 metres away.
Yeah, because right up close, it will completely saturate your image. So here, if I have a very bright light on a white surface, it completely over-saturates the whiteness of it, so it's hard to read. And as you can see here, we have a white astronaut suit. We have metal on this apparatus and also on the lander. So if we have an incredibly bright light of 13.5 million lumens, it would completely saturate this scene.
Move it back a bit.
Okay. We could move it back a bit, but even if we move it back by 10 meters, you'd still completely oversaturate your scene, and all of the whites on the astronaut suit would completely dazzle any photos and footage taken. So you have to move it back to about 800 to 1,000 meters away, but you get 13.5 lux, which does not give the amount of photons we need to create the crisp, clear shadows.
Can you show me a demonstration of saturation using the world's most brightest torch?
I can!
I've got it right!
Well remembered! This is the world's brightest torch. It has 100,000 lumens.
How much are they? Because that fellow there wants them. I know this is my brother-in-law. He will want the brightest torch in the world.
It's £800, which is why I don't have one to demo here on the free Fringe. But as you can see, up close completely saturates the road. Further away, you do get this diminish of light, so you get kind of the right light level, but it is not an evenly lit surface at all. And we have non-parallel shadows here. So even if you get this torch, which by the way was invented in 2012, so this wasn't available for the astronauts at the time, and the Luxor Skybeam was from 1993, so that wasn't invented for the moon landings either. So you would need an incredible amount of light, laser light, which wasn't available at the time.
Yeah. You're only using one thing though.
Yeah.
1,000 metres away, just use a wall.
Like this.
There you go.
So-
Wall of light.
A wall of Luxor Skybeams or torches.
There you go.
Again, I can't say that they didn't have this technology at the time, so it'll have to go into the secret technology bucket. But we didn't have the technology to create this incredible light that would saturate the set if it was up close, and also not enough lux if it's more than 12 meters away. And there's also another crux to this as well.
What's that?
The whole thing had to be filmed in a vacuum.
Really?
Yes.
They're very small. Look.
Thank you for pointing out my super subtle prompt to me to remember to talk about the vacuum, because in rehearsals I kept forgetting we need to talk about the vacuum. So thank you for pointing out my super secret prompt. Really appreciate that.
What's a vacuum in this context?
Okay, a vacuum, there is no atmosphere, no air. There is no air on the moon at all. The moon has a tiny, tiny, thin atmosphere, but for all intents and purposes, there is no air or atmosphere on the moon. So it's a vacuum, which means this footage from one of the moon landings, where they dropped a hammer and a feather at the same time, they both fall at the same time because there's no air. There's no air resistance for the feather and the hammer to fall. Now, I didn't bring a hammer because it will make a very loud noise and damage the floor, and this venue has been very nice to us, so we don't want to damage anything, but this will do for now. Here is a feather, and the reason this feather will fall slower than the hammer is because there's air in here, and it kicks up air resistance, so that's why it floats, because it's very light. So if I drop these at the same time, the hammer falls quicker, the feather takes longer because there is air in this room. So this had to have been filmed in a vacuum. They're both falling at the same time.
Does it? Anyone think of a counter-argument?
Why did they think to do this? They were trying to prevent conspiracy theories when they were doing this, you know?
Yeah, they were trying, but they failed because what?
You make feather out of like lead and then
Metal.
like
Yeah.
the hammer out with foam.
Yes. Metal, we'll go for the metal feather argument. Was that what you were going to say there, sir?
It's on a wire.
It's on a wire.
Okay, on a wire.
On a wire.
Here's a moon for guessing what we're going to do next.
So, Yes, you can make a feather out of metal. I typed it into Etsy, metal feather, and I've got this fantastic thing.
Could you have got a bigger one, Rick, for the purposes of this demonstration?
In true Etsy style, they made it look bigger than it actually was. They put a Playmobil man, or Lego man, I thought it was a Playmobil one.
What, you mean
But
they faked it?
they did. Fake Etsy.
Fake Etsy feathers, that's the next show.
Yeah, that's a lovely pop at the Pleasance. Fake stuff on Etsy. Right, but I reckon these might land at the same time. I might do it on stage so that people over there, because you missed the feathers. Fun. But so if these land at the same time, your moon landing's fake.
No, not
Yes,
quite.
yes.
No, that's not how it works.
Or at least that footage is fake.
Okay.
Right, let's have a 3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1.
Go.
You know, that's a fair point. I can't...
Change that.
Okay. I can't tell you that that was a real feather or a real hammer. I wasn't there on the moon when they filmed this a couple of decades before I was born, but you're right. I can't prove that this is not a metal feather.
So it wasn't in a vacuum.
Well, it was in a vacuum. I'm going to show you some footage of astronauts on the moon now. And when they kick up the dust, and the dust goes straight up and back down again, because there's no air on the moon. So when you kick the dust, it goes up, it doesn't linger, and it falls back down. Here on Earth, when you kick up dust, like this rally car is kicking up dust, you get this cloud of dust behind it because it gets trapped in the atmosphere. It's very, very light, so it lingers for a long, long time. That is why when you see astronauts kicking this dust, it goes up and straight back down. So that's why it had to have been filmed in a vacuum.
Okay. Some people sometimes ask at this point, what if you use very fine sand? Andy will then respond, I tried to do the maths on that, they have different parabolic arcs.
Yep.
He did do the maths on it, I said cut it out of the show, it's very boring. But I will say, if you want to talk to Andy about fine sand and parabolic arcs, he's in the bar afterwards. Buy him a drink, it's really not worth it though. Very boring. But yes, fine, okay, we'll film it in a vacuum.
Okay.
We'll build a vacuum chamber.
Well, this is the world's biggest vacuum. It's 30 metres tall by 37 metres wide.
Yeah, we'll use that. Who owns that?
NASA.
All fits, man. All fits.
Look, okay, 30 metres by 37 metres wide though. This set is bigger than 30 metres by 37 metres, right?
Well, that was build a bigger one. That was a. This is.
This is bigger than
How
30 by
big do we need
37
to-
metres.
How big do we need? About a kilometre?
Yes,
Okay.
easily a kilometre. Well, this is this is from the Apollo 16 missions, I believe, and that hill in the background is 5 kilometres away. And you wouldn't think it, because of how crystal clear it is. And that's because there's no atmosphere, no air on the moon. If you were to stand at one from the John Lewis Cafe and look out over all of Edinburgh, even on a clear day, looking at the top of Arthur's Seat, it would look hazy, even on a crystal clear day. And that is because of atmospheric dispersion. When light is dispersed and bounces off all of the molecules in the atmosphere, so things look hazy. So when you look over at something on the horizon, it will look hazy. Like if you're on the beach and you're looking at oil rigs, they look hazy because of the atmosphere. This is 5 kilometres away and it is crystal clear. Here is the satellite image of the moon landing here, and it's this mountain here. That's what you're seeing 5 kilometres in the background. So you would need a massive set to create this vacuum.
Probably paint that on the back wall. I'll give you a kilometre.
Okay.
Build a kilometre set.
Right.
Hollywood's quite big. So
Okay, that vacuum, the real life vacuum owned by NASA, is in this building, which is 50 metres tall. This is the height of the building you would need in comparison to it. 1,000 metres compared to 50.
Yeah.
You'd see it! You would see this building. The Burj Khalifa, the tallest building on the Earth, is 810 metres, and you could see that for miles.
We've got a clever idea, haven't we? What was that?
Underground?
Yeah, who said it first? Someone over there. There you go.
Okay, fine, we'll put it underground. But what happens when you dig underground?
Give us more credit than that, Andy.
No.
We'll use a digger and a spade.
No. This is the only royalty-free image I could find where you have like a big pile of dirt next to a hole, so forgive me for not being super accurate with this.
But we will show our slight upper bum crack. We're builders.
Yeah, exactly. But when you dig a hole, you create a lot of dirt. So if you were to create a kilometre cubed under the ground, that is a Snowden's worth of dirt that you need to hide.
Yeah. How long has Snowden been about?
Since before 1969.
We could hide it in the desert. Like, we sort of go Area 51, that's a military base, we could just hide it around there. No, I've seen The Great Escape. They just sort of wander around, soil down their trousers. But we don't even have to, we can just use wheelbarrows, diggers.
Okay.
Like, hiding soil in America is probably possible. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, give me a quick cheer if you know what the Channel Tunnel is. The Channel.
Yeah.
Excellent. The tunnel that goes between England and France. So the Channel Tunnel, that would take 200 Channel tunnels worth of waste. A kilometre cube is 200 Channel tunnels. Now the Channel Tunnel took 13,000 people 6 years to dig the tunnel. The equivalent of having to dig a kilometre cubed and hide all this and put the dirt down your trousers and walk over to the coast and just like kick it out, that would take 15 million human years. 15 million humans working to create a kilometre cubed thing under the ground.
And they did it in about 10 years.
Okay, so over 10 years,
So
that would
10
be
years,
1.5 million people.
Yeah, there you go. There's 1.5 million people in America. At least, with a few left over to do like jobs.
Okay, so we get these 1.5 million people to dig a kilometre cubed under the ground, which could fit the Burj Khalifa, light it with impossible light, and then we need a power plant on the top to actually power our vacuum, because vacuums create they need an incredible amount of power to extract the air out.
Yeah. NASA's got a big budget. We'll do that.
Okay, so to summarise...
Can you prove they didn't?
No, I can't prove that they didn't, so this will go in the secret technology and infinite money bucket, because I can't disprove a negative. So, we're going to fake the moon landing, okay? Whilst we're orbiting the moon, we're going to push play on our video with this fake footage. Footage that has been lit on a set with simulated sunlight, filmed in a vacuum that's impossibly big, in a studio that's a kilometre cubed wide, that is either on the desert or underground whilst we hide a Snowden's worth of dirt.
Yes.
Or we could land on the moon and use the sun and the darkness of space, the sun to illuminate our set and the darkness of space for the backdrop. We can use the vacuum of space. We don't need to build a studio because we can just film it, and then we can just film on the moon. Which of these is easier to do?
It's a coin toss, I suppose. I'll go for the top one. But also, remember, we're only from orbit. You
Yeah.
have to go this way, you have to land. On this one, we don't have to land, remember. Landing is difficult. Yeah, because we're just orbiting.
Yeah.
Whereas on your plan, you have to land people on the moon.
Yes.
Landing is difficult.
Yes.
Can you think of anything that lands?
Pigeons. Planes. Gliders, crows, seagulls, loads of things land. Which is harder, landing on the moon and filming, or creating this fiasco in the desert?
Coin toss.
Okay, let's talk about the cover-up aspect, because if we do go with option 1, we would have almost 2 million people on our books that we would have to pay off forever. Let's talk about the cover-up. The Apollo missions took 400,000 people working for 10 years to come up with how to get to the moon, calculating everything, creating the codes, creating the rocket. That is a lot of people you would have to pay off and keep secret forever, until they all die. Conspiracy theories always get out, no matter how many people involved. For example, this conspiracy theory that it was just a wine and cheese event and that they were following the rules. All this conspiracy got out, and there were, 200 people involved in this? Maybe don't film yourself doing it, but...
Yeah, they weren't the brightest, come on.
Okay, 200 people and the secret still got out. The Watergate scandal had 70 people involved, and that still got out. The Monica Lewinsky scandal had 3 people involved, Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky, and Linda Tripp. Well, okay, 4 if you include the dry cleaners. But there are 4 people involved in that conspiracy theory, and it still got out. No matter how many people are involved in a conspiracy theory, it will still get out. So 400,000 people having to keep quiet forever is downright ludicrous and impossible.
Yeah, but they're Americans, so you can kind of pension them off. If any of them leaks it under the Official Secrets Act or whatever their equivalent is, you can stop their pensions and send them to Coventry or whatever the American equivalent is. Send them to Connecticut.
Yes.
But yeah, basically discredit them, just stop their pensions. So it's not in their interest to speak.
Okay, and I guess there is an element of national pride involved, right?
Yeah, it's
So-
Cold War. If it suddenly came out now, it'd be massive embarrassment.
Okay, but Jodrell Bank in the UK and this Italian observatory all independently detected the Apollo missions. They all got downlinks. There were ground stations in Australia that all received the Apollo missions. The Soviet Union, East Germany, they all broadcast the footage of the moon landing. They all wrote about it in their papers. Why would they go along with this?
Well, it's back in the 60s, who could say?
It was the height of the Cold War and they hated each other.
Exactly, it's part of the Cold War or something. But that was back then, you can't prove that. Give us something now, tangible, we can...
Okay, so here is satellite footage of the lunar landers. Here is Apollo 1, 12, 14, 15, 16 and 17. Here is satellite image of the moon landings taken by the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, which maps the whole surface of the moon. Here is footage of the moon landings.
Where are these from?
The LRO, Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter.
Who built that?
NASA.
Okay, well, just Photoshop it.
Just okay, but there is other footage from other space agencies. The Indian Space Agency created Chandrayaan 2, and this photographed the Apollo 16 lander. And look, oh wait, I skipped a slide, but go ahead.
Yeah. So my point is, you can pay overseas people to do stuff and edit things. So to prove this, evidence, because we're all evidence-based, aren't we? Okay. So we've gone out and we've bought 30 quid's
There is
worth
no
of-
we.
No, we. This is what your free fringe bucket collection is going to pay for. I've gone out to Fiverr, paid an overseas person, so nothing to do with patriotism or anything, to make a music video with my chicken in it, in a Norwegian house style.
Did it come back?
It has come back, and I put it in this morning. So, in the words of Chris Whitty, next slide, please. Look at that. So, 30 quid. All you do is basically this proves. I'm not saying this is moon landing footage, just in case anyone.
This is not moon landing footage.
No, it's definitely not. I don't know what's going on there. And there appears to be a drop.
What is this?
I believe it's called the drop. Look. There you go, look at that. 30 quid, absolute bargain. So this is nothing to do with patriotism. This was just pure cash. I gave them cash, they gave me a video.
This is not the same as that.
Oh, my one was better. Look at that. No music, no animation. Mine is better. 30 quid. This probably cost less.
Look, this is real footage taken by the Indian Space Agency, okay, by Chandrayaan 2. They photographed the lunar surface, and look, it's so close to the actual footage that you got the same craters in the same position. They have done an incredible job of photographing this real-life, honest-to-God, moon landing set. If this was fake, they'd have to do it absolutely perfectly. They'd have to get the position of the sun in the sky for these shadows in the crater. They would have to simulate all sorts of stuff that could be retrofitted and debunked by experts. They would be able to go, well, the sun had to be in this position of the skies in order to capture this image. Have you got 10 people to try and do the same thing once?
I tried to organise a stag do once.
Yes. How did that go?
Keith ended up in Bristol.
Where were you meant to be?
Oh, okay. Turned up late. You missed the go-karting, but did the drinking.
The point is, it's incredibly hard to get everyone to do the same thing. And these are the future missions that don't involve America. All of these countries would have to just Photoshop all of the footage they take around the moon landings. And China, Turkey, and Russia, not too keen on America at the moment. So you're going to have to persuade them to go along with it.
Yes, however, look at this, they're all in the future. So you're using evidence that's going to come in the future, and that's supposition, so we're not going to accept it.
Okay, well, into the bucket it goes of just infinite money to pay off these people to Photoshop everything forever.
Yeah.
I think the infinite money argument is doing a lot of heavy lifting. So, and we're at an impasse here of just throwing money at the problem. So, in conclusion of how to fake the moon landing. Well, you could launch a rocket and hide it in low Earth orbit, but you're burning impossible amounts of fuel. Hide it in geostationary orbit, but kill your astronauts, get in there, or perform an impossible braking maneuver. Better yet, go and orbit the moon, but not land on it. Just push play on a video player. Broadcasting footage which you have faked using impossible studio light, an impossible vacuum that is built either in a kilometre studio, which is above the ground or below the ground, and then it's hidden in the middle of the desert, hiding a Snowden's worth of dirt while you do this, on top of keeping it quiet forever, paying off between 450,000 to 2 million people. Then you have to pay off other countries' governments to go along with this, keep amateur astronomers quiet, Photoshop all the images forever. That is how you would fake the moon landing. Or you could launch a rocket, you could orbit the moon, you could film on the moon, broadcast the footage, and then come home and tell everyone forever. Which one of these is easier to do?
Right, to understand my position, you've got to understand the lizard people are teaming up with Elvis.
That's all we've got time for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming to How to Fake the Moon Landing. Yes, thank you so much for coming to the show. I have a YouTube channel, and here are my various socials for being a lunatic and loving the moon and making videos about moons of the solar system. Please subscribe to the Lunatic channel for videos about moons of the solar system. Follow me on these socials, and you'll get an idea of when I'm going to be next on Radio 1 to talk about space stuff, or just I have a new video out. Because this is the PBH Free Fringe, we do kind of run on donations, and we've had to register the show twice because we have two different names for it. If you feel this show was entertaining and you'd like to kick into the bucket, the infinite money bucket, I'll be at the back. I also have a QR code, which is for a PayPal donation thing. If you don't want to donate, that's totally fine. We did advertise it as a free Fringe show, but if you enjoyed it, could you just leave us a review on the Fringe website so we can get people in here for tomorrow's show?
Why do we have to register it twice, and how does that relate to tomorrow?
Because tomorrow we have a completely different show called How Much Is the Moon Worth? That one's a lot more of a lecture than a debate, but it's a fun lecture, that's a promise. So,
You sound like a cool science teacher.
science is so fun! But yes, thank you so much for coming along, guys. I really appreciate it. A huge round of applause to Rick. A huge round of applause to PBH Free Fringe. I've been Andy, thank you very much. Good night.